Hey there, welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology for June 5th through the 11th. And there's a lot happening this week. We have Venus and Mercury changing signs and making aspects to Pluto. Venus is also making an aspect to Jupiter. Mars is in the mix here. So there's a lot of big and dramatic energy that's happening in the sky this week. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you. So, first things first is that Venus is moving from Cancer into Leo this week. And so this is shifting our relational focus, Venus's relationships, social engagements, also our ability to take in and appreciate pleasure and pleasurable experiences, whether that's somatically through our body or our senses, in a more feeling tone kind of way, or visually. Venus is also associated with aesthetics and beauty and what we find visibly pleasing, audibly, sensorial, all the senses, right? So we're moving from this focus around relationship and aesthetics that is more feeling, which is Cancer. We're moving into Leo, which is more about being bold and decisive. Leo is a fixed fire sign. Fire is about passion, instincts, and it's about wanting to share and to appreciate, to receive as well. So Leo is really about going out and being out in the world and being generous with others. Now, this is really important that when this happens is that when Venus moves into Leo, it's going to immediately make an opposition with Pluto. And this is a challenging aspect because Venus is relationships and Pluto is depth and intensity and sometimes experiences that feel like crises. Pluto is also associated with getting into the truth, the really stone cold truth of something, and sort of like removing all of the surface BS that doesn't matter. And when we have Venus and Pluto making an aspect like this, it can be where we crave depth of meaning in our relationships. It can be where we want to really connect very intimately with others. And it can be where our existing relationships, we are craving more meaning. It can also be a little challenging in that Pluto is also associated with the unconscious and with our the way that we attach and connect in a way where maybe there are projections or power dynamics that we're participating in that we're not fully aware of. And so this is especially highlighted around relationship dynamics or social settings because Venus is the planet that's making this aspect. So I would just watch I would watch sort of what comes to light, what comes up this week. And we're going to be really wanting to have deep meaning in relationships. And I want you to watch for areas where maybe there is something that happens that you feel uncomfortable with, or where you have a strong emotional reaction. The strong emotional reaction is always giving us information about our needs, our boundaries, or where we feel some sort of discomfort with something. And sometimes that's a matter of working with our own internal patterns of responding. Sometimes it's about changing the circumstance, and only you know what is appropriate for you. The other piece of this that's into this equation is that Mars is already here in Leo. And so the Venus-Pluto aspect is exact this week. Mars has been in this place of Leo. And so Venus is sort of coming in and reactivating the Mars opposite Pluto that we experienced a little bit of time ago. And so Mars adds a sense of passion and the warrior kind of mindset, really wanting to fight for something, to stand up for something. And so this is a very dynamic aspect. This is a lot that's going into big emotions, big feelings, and our desires and our boundaries being in the mix here as well. Mars is very much about boundaries and confrontation and courage. Now, if that already wasn't enough, we also have Jupiter into this equation as well. And this is because Jupiter is at the early degrees of Taurus. So this means that Venus is going to square Jupiter, and Mars is already making this square to Jupiter as well. And so the Jupiter piece here brings in expansion, amplification, and Jupiter can go a few different ways. So Jupiter can feel like things are too much. It can be sort of like an overwhelming kind of energy. Like there's just too much happening at one time. And also Jupiter can help us to see things from a different perspective. It can help us to reframe or to totally change, like do a 180 on the way that we're perceiving things. And as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about Byron Katie's method of questioning our emotional reactions or our strong emotional thoughts about things. This process she called the work. I'll link that down below if I remember to do that. But basically the work in Byron Katie's process is questioning something that we're upset about and asking ourselves, is this true? Do I know that this is true? And even like flipping the statement around. And Jupiter is all about doing this because Jupiter reminds us that our thoughts and our feelings are really about, that our thoughts and our feelings really arise from our conditioning, from the family and the culture that we originated from, and that there are so many other ways of looking at things. And Jupiter helps us to get that different vantage point, to look at something from another place in the room, so to speak. So again, like a lot of amplified energy here where Jupiter is sort of expanding the Plutonian, the Pluto themes around getting into the details of things, getting into that which has maybe been hidden or unspoken. And that can be something that maybe a dynamic in relationships where you haven't talked about it, it's been happening and you've been aware of it, or you suddenly become aware of it. And okay, so that's like one big chunk of what's happening. And I know that people get a little freaked out whenever we talk about Pluto, because Pluto is intense. It is like, its symbolism is by nature quite intense. And it can also be very therapeutic and very healing. And the way that we can tap into that healing, therapeutic side of Pluto is to bring as much compassion and awareness, as we can to the situation, both to ourselves and to the other people in the room. Pluto helps us to wake up. It helps us to see things as they are, and sometimes that is devastating to see the reality of a situation. Sometimes we need to grieve the reality of a situation, and it has that underlying therapeutic benefit, ideally. Okay, so Pluto also, let's continue the Pluto story that's happening this week. Pluto is going to move back, it's going to appear to move back in the sky from our perspective into Capricorn. So Pluto has been in Aquarius for about the last 3 months or so. It moved into Aquarius in March of 2023. And this week it is, because it's retrograde, it's going to go back into Capricorn until January of 2024. So this is going to really impact folks who have personal planets or personal points either in late degrees of Capricorn or in early degrees of Aquarius. You are the people who are going to feel this the most because Pluto is moving. It's like changing gears. It's moving into a different emphasis in your chart. And so if that doesn't make sense, if you don't know your birth chart, don't worry about it. The point is that this movement of Pluto back into Capricorn is revisiting topics that may have come up around 2022, around last year. And so the way that this works when we have a retrograde like this, where a planet goes back over an area where it has already progressed over, is that it's kind of like going back to a scenario that happened and getting closure on it, or tying it up in a bow and being like, okay, like I experienced that and this is what happened, and you know, it's done, a sense of completion kind of. And so this is a long-term transit from June until January of 2024, that Pluto will be moving backwards through this area of Capricorn. So whenever something happens over a longer period of time, the effects astrologically are more subtle, and they sort of like build over time. Think about training for a marathon versus training for sprints. It's going to be a different experience. And so to tap into this, especially if you know your chart and you know that you have planet placements in the late degrees of Capricorn, maybe reflect on, especially in 2022, sort of what was coming up for you around themes that involve Pluto, such as working on your own internal unconscious patterning, working on processing emotions in a way that feels safe and secure, working on your relationship to power dynamics in your primary relationships and people that you're close with. And even just maybe ways that you've grown or changed or transformed in a more internal kind of way. Pluto is about internal transformation. Of course, it's always connected to our outer world. The inner and outer are commingled, but Pluto is really about how the inner change can happen, and then there's something that happens on the outside as a result of that inner change. Okay, so a couple of things to share with you, and then we'll go into the tarot. So Mercury it's going to, okay, so yeah, this is also continuing the Pluto story. So there's a lot of Pluto that's happening this week. Mercury, which is a symbol of our mind, our thought process, our ability to communicate, is going to make an aspect to Pluto, and then right away it's going to move into Gemini. So Mercury in Taurus is going to make a trine to Pluto, which we really like because trines are easy, flowing, harmonious. There's an effortlessness, and things tend to go in the best possible scenario, the best possible way. So this week, it kind of feels like we start off maybe a little rocky, where there's something that comes up that may be a little bit uncomfortable or shocking, or kind of just like challenges you, that especially like is emotionally challenging. And then this Mercury trine Pluto happens towards the end of the week, and this kind of has a feeling of like integrating the information. And Pluto, again, is about healing. Mercury is about our mind. And so it may be where maybe towards the end of the week, there's a sense of cohesion on what's happening, and you feel more clear on what you think about something or how you want to approach something, or you have the words to, you have the ability to communicate in the scenario. And again, this is active, this Mercury trine Pluto is active the whole week, so we can really use our words well here. Again, Pluto really emphasizes us to slow down and to be aware of what it is that we're experiencing, and then Mercury allows for that communication to happen. And then Mercury moves from Taurus into Gemini, which again, we really like this because Mercury is moving into the sign that it rules, which means that it's able to help us do the Mercury things in a more easeful way. So again, communication, writing, speaking, even teaching and business. And Mercury is moving from Taurus, where it's been for quite some time because it was retrograde in Taurus, into Gemini, into another area of the zodiac, into another area of your chart, into another area of your life. And so we have some fresh energy that's coming in starting this week and over the next month or so as Mercury moves forward into a new sign. Okay, so let's pull some cards for you. So I'm going to pull 3 cards, and if you have something that's on your mind that you want to hold in your heart, or you can simply focus on your body and your breathing and be open to receiving a message. Okay. Do one last shuffle here. Okay, so I pulled card number 1 is the Hanged Man, which I pulled reversed, interestingly. The Hanged Person. In this deck, it's called the Hanged Muse. So the Hanged Man in the Tarot is about waiting. It's about figuring out the answer through inaction. So usually this card will come up reversed if we're feeling pressure to do something. I don't know about you, but that is something that I will, if I have a problem or something that I want to solve, I usually tend to go into, okay, what can I do? What can I do to remediate this or to move towards an answer or solution? The Hanged Man, especially the Hanged Man reversed, is saying, wait. It's saying that action is going to, you're going to be running yourself in circles. Now, that doesn't mean, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, and I don't know what your scenario is, but it's really saying to slow down and to pause as much as you can in this scenario. And I'm in this card in particular, I'm really drawn to, there's an eye that's like at the top of the triangle, and then there's a doorway over the eye. And this is like, look. It's like really looking, and it's more about watching than doing. Okay, then we have the 5 of Voices. This is also the 5 of Swords in the traditional Rider-Waite. And I don't know why, but I want to read the description from this, from the book for this deck. So 5 of Voices, also known as the 5 of Swords. So let's see. Feelings of defeat, learning from lessons of loss, fighting, winning at all costs, time to extend an olive branch, seeing what's really important, and working with feelings of failure. The prompt says, okay, so the prompt essentially talks about winning at all costs. And when this card comes up, it's about that saying, it speaks about that saying, you can win the battle but lose the war. I wish that I had a different analogy that wasn't violence-based or war-based or fighting-based, but it's really about how it's about choosing the way in which you confront something. And it may even be like, if you're right, that doesn't always lead to a harmonious situation. So for example, we talked about Venus opposite Pluto, and that this could be things coming up in relationship that are different. This card, the Five of Voices, is really about being okay with being wrong, or that you don't have to. Sometimes it's more important to maintain the relationship than to be right. And I think that that's so nuanced, and that there's a lot that could be gone into on each particular scenario and situation and each particular relationship. But this is really about knowing that that it's not always about winning. It's not always about being right. So take that however it lands. And it also may mean, like disengaging from a situation where you're not being heard. That's coming up too. Okay, and then the third card is the Six of Materials. So this card is all about generosity, receiving, and I pulled this card reversed too, interestingly. So this card can come up sometimes when maybe for whatever reason there's a sense of withholding to protect. And this card is a reminder that when you share, that you're able to receive more. This card could also be that maybe you're overgiving in some way, and that it's to an extent that it's harmful to you. And so it's like, what is it's speaking to your relationship to giving as well as receiving. And when I'm looking at all of these together, so we have the Hanged, Muse, the Five of Voices, and the Six of Materials. There's something here around reciprocity, and there's something here around like really, okay, this it's like I'm getting this concept of someone that maybe overgives, or that does a lot and maybe feels a pressure to do a lot, that kind of to like pull back your energy, which is the Hanged Man, to pull it back, sit back, and really look at what it is that you want to give, and managing that sense of, is there reciprocity in the relationship? Is there a can people hear you when you talk to them about things? Like, I'm really thinking about the Venus Pluto here, in that it's so important for us to give people the opportunity to engage in dialogue with us, where if there's something that bothers you, it's really important to say so in a way where it's owning how you feel and what it is that you need is valid. And also at the same time, like, this is really the Five of Voices, owning that this is what you want and making that request in a way that that hopefully the other person can hear you, and then being open for them to share, their response to that and what their desires and needs are. And that that we shouldn't be afraid to engage with this, to have those dialogues, and that, maybe there's some people that you can do that with and some people that you cannot. And that the Six of Materials reminds us that we want to ideally find scenarios and situations where we can give, we can be really generous, and then where we feel like we're receiving at the same time, that it is this reciprocal sort of relationship. I hope that resonates, and I hope that you enjoyed this. If you resonate with me and my work, I would absolutely love to do an astrology reading for you. You can find out more about that on my website below. And I am still, I still have the ability to take on a couple more psychotherapy clients starting in July. And so if you're interested in psychotherapy and you think that it may be a good fit, I would love to connect with you. You can find out more info on that below, also on my website. And also this week, if you are in the San Diego area, the San Diego Astrological Society is hosting their annual Readers Bazaar, where they will offer readers in astrology and tarot and a variety of other divinations. And you can get your cards read, get your chart read, little mini readings there. I'll be a reader there, and we have a lot of other fantastic readers. And it is a fundraiser for the Astrological Society. So all of the funds go to that nonprofit organization. I would love to see you there. I'll have more info below on that. And yeah, I'm wishing you a wonderful week and sending you lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.